Welcome in. We are back. Adventures in Business. It is Monday, May 12th. We're rocking and rolling. Mandy, how are we doing today?
Amani, it's May 15th. It's May 15th. We're stuck in WeCon. We're stuck in WeCon mode.
It is May 15th. I had a court date today, so I heard May 12th. I said, "Oh, is it May 12th?" I'm so confused. May 15th. We're here.
You had a court date. Were you in court this morning? What happened? You in trouble?
Well, pre-pandemic, I'm not in trouble anymore. I got a car and I bought it from someone, so I had to wait for my tags to arrive. And so while I was driving without any tags, of course, the police want to go and pull you over. And then you were supposed to go to the police station and get it signed off on. Then the pandemic happens, everything shut down. So I'm just now addressing the situation, and we're good now. We're good. I paid my fine. We're okay.
Good. Well, I'm glad you're not driving illegally anymore, as it sounds like you have for the last 3 years.
No,
I'm
because
glad
it
I
was
didn't get in a car with you, Amani.
because if they would have, like, it was done. I just had to get it signed off on, and because I took too long, you pay a little fine, or not a little fine, a couple, like $100, but whatever. It's done. It's finished. We'll move on to that. We had the chance this weekend, good segue,
Yes.
to do our first live portion like this, live in a conference. What were your thoughts on it? How did it go? What did you think?
It was spectacular. I mean, it was the name of the product is Adventures in Your Meeting Live, which is basically picking Amani and I up off the screen and putting us live on the trade show floor or in your ballroom foyer. And we were in a ballroom foyer. And, I had a lot of trepidation about it. Like, will the internet work? Hotel internet can be really tricky. Will the
Yes.
internet work? Like, will the guests show up? Because we scheduled guests in 10-minute increments. So it was 2 hours of multiple 10-minute interviews. All the guests showed up. People kind of gathered around. They took pictures. I was really worried about the background noise. And if you
Mhm.
rewatch it, you really can't hear any background noise. But I don't
Nice.
know about you, Amani, but like while we were there was a lot of background noise.
Yeah.
But the
So,
audio, like, I think that's
right.
kudos to you. You did such a good job from the production and the
Mhm.
engineering standpoint that you couldn't hear that we were in a loud hotel
Awesome.
foyer. I mean, it was just, it's far surpassed my expectations. I thought it was awesome. What,
Wonderful. Well,
what
thank
about
you.
you? What did you think?
I loved it. My favorite part is when the people come in, they're a little nervous and they get on camera. We make them feel at ease, and then they do well. We're like, see, that wasn't as hard as we thought. And I liked it when people were kind of coming from their breakouts and they were watching and they took pictures and like, what's this? What's this? So it was good. I was nervous just with the cameras and the audio, but everything was great. Props, and thank you to the hotel for providing us with a hard internet line instead of Wi-Fi, because that could have been even trickier. So we did well there. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, and thank you to MPI Southern California for
Yes.
allowing us to do that. And Cassie for doing the imagery, and Corbin, who doesn't know it yet, who's about to do all the video clips of each of each one. So I think it's a full team. You know, a lot of times people don't know behind the scenes. We've got a whole team, and we can't do it without each other. So just thanks for everybody. This is the beginning of
Yes.
a lot of adventures of doing this for meetings. So I was really happy. I know we've got some lessons learned, but I was really happy with how we started.
As was I. Now,
Yeah.
talk to us today. And I had the fortunate pleasure of meeting our guest today before she even came on the show. Tell us who we're going to talk to today. We've got some questions, a lot about AI and some other things. Who are we talking to today?
This guest is a powerhouse, okay? She is a mom. She is a wife. She's a mother of animals, animals and fur babies and humans. She is an excellent daughter and a caregiver to her parents. She is a great sibling. She is a leader in the hospitality industry for the last 30 years. And oh, by the way, she's an Iron Woman and the co founder of Nick's Endurance. She is one of my mentors who I have known for 24 years, and I'm so excited to have her on the show, Julie Dunkle.
All right, round of applause as Julie Dunkle appears on the screen.
Hi,
We love
Julie.
the applause there. How are we doing today?
I am awesome. I am so happy to be here.
We're excited to have you. Mandy and I will go back and forth with different questions, but really, I'm not sure if you can answer this or Mandy can answer this, but how did you become Mandy's mentor? I'm curious. What's the story behind that?
Oh my gosh, that was in the dark halls of the Sheraton San Diego. And I think at the time, Mandy, you might have been over in the West Tower, right?
I was in the
Mandy
West
was
Tower.
doing her job as a catering manager. And we worked together in a way that salespeople work so closely with catering managers and moving their space and trying to do it diplomatically. And that began the beginning of our relationship.
I
Yeah.
love it. Okay.
Julie
All right.
handed me a she handed me so basically, Julie's being very nice about it. Julie had a big pharmaceutical group, and she bumped my catering military ball out of the ballroom to book this gorgeous pharmaceutical group. And what I got to do was pay my client $50,000 as compensation. And Julie being the boss, handed me a check and was like, go give this to the admiral. And so I did. And then what can happen sometimes is that it gets adversarial between sales and between catering. But Julie taught me a really valuable lesson that day. She wrote me a handwritten note and just said, I know you worked really, really hard to book that program. I'm really sorry we had to move it. I'm sure you understand the bigger reason, but thank you for being a partner. And I will never forget that. And that was when, and you know, Amani, you've been through this with other guests where I'm like, I have to make them my friend. That was when I'm like, Julie's got to be my mentor. I got to learn everything I can from her because she taught me a lesson of like, you know, when you work in tandem, it doesn't have to be adversarial. You can find a way to work together and be kind. And I learned a lot. I've learned so much from her along the way. And then she was the first to come over to HPN. And then I followed her to HPN 13 years ago. And so yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You might have mentioned this. I don't know if I heard you, but you also are a triathlete. Is that correct, Julie?
Yes. Yep. It's a side hobby hustle that's now turned into a business for me as well. So I spend a
Okay.
lot of time swimming, biking, running, and now I coach triathletes and endurance athletes as well.
Tell us. Oh, Mandy, look like you wanna
I
say
do.
something.
I do.
Go
I want to jump in. Well, I have
ahead.
a question. Julie, I don't know the answer to this because, you know, for a long time you were, you know, doing the hotel thing. And then
Yeah.
I just remember at one point that all of a sudden you were just like healthy, super fit Julie Iron Manning all the time. So I'm just curious, like, what was that turning point for you where you decided to make this big change for your life? And how old were you? As I think it's pretty inspirational for people in different elements of their wellness journey.
I was a collegiate swimmer, so I swam from the time I was 4 all the way through college. I got through college and took a major break from anything exercise. I became very good at drinking and partying and working and living in the hotel business, living my best life. And in my mid to late 20s, I had a realization that I needed I need to get back to my roots of exercise. And at that point, I was just running and having not doing anything super seriously as I was having kids. And in my mid to late 30s, I did a triathlon, and it was one of those life changing experiences. It was so fun, so invigorating, and it was a tribe of people that I needed to be a part of. Like I left that race that day wanting to be not only part of that tribe, but how do I be a leader in that tribe? And it took a while. So I became an athlete first, and then I started coaching as my side hustle. I was doing the full HPN booking. I still deeply involved in that, and it was my side hustle that started growing and growing and growing. And for a number of years, I wanted more than anything to make that my primary hustle and make HPN my side hustle. And I just didn't have the guts. It's scary. It was scary to jump off a ledge to leave corporate America to go to HPN. And this seemed even scarier. Um, COVID hit, and guess what? I had a lot of time, and uh, I was nudged off that cliff. So that was the transgression professionally. Personally, from the first time I did a triathlon, it was just nonstop. It was, to say it steamrolled was crazy. Within 2 years, my husband said, like, "This is our whole life, right?" And I said, "Pretty much."
Hmm.
Interesting. Okay. So many questions to ask there. My first question would be, as a coach, how do you coach people and how do you help people with the mindset? Because I know that doing a triathlon is a lot physical, but it has a lot to do with your mindset too, in terms of maybe getting through that last wall where you want to stop, but you keep going. What are some tips you have for the audience and us about kind of staying strong and getting through that wall when you hit the wall, but how do you keep going?
I mean, it's a great question, and it's not even just triathlon. It's really so many things. It's practice what you want to happen, and nothing happens magically. And so, how do you approach every part of your day, week, month, whether it is your walk or your next thing or your next thing? When things get really hard, you have to think about, what are you going to do? And I find that people are, and this isn't in just triathlon. I coach runners, I coach walkers, cyclists, I coach people in any sort of life sort of way. Is you have to talk to yourself, and what happens when something gets really difficult? And that's what I do with people in the very beginning, is what do you do when that happens? And it could be, there's the excuse maker, that everybody has an excuse. There's the excuse maker, or there's the denial. Once you can uncover what is it that's stopping you, then we start to work on breaking through that. And so, but it's one of those things. It's not if, it's when it gets hard. If you expect the whatever you're doing, it could be an Ironman triathlon, or it could be a long business negotiation. If you expect it to stay easy, when it gets hard, you're going to fall apart. So we
Mm.
practice doing what happens when it gets hard. And I like to say, we learn to embrace the suck. What are you going to do? You're going to embrace it and be, this is when I thrive. And like I said, that can be in business. When it gets really uncomfortable, you can be, okay, I'm ready now. I can do this.
Interesting. Now, my follow-up question would be, because you spoke about how you went kind of, and this is your main kind of, this went from a side hustle to maybe your main revenue source kind of right around the pandemic time once you made that shift. That's very, very scary for some people because we're used to that security of being like, corporate America. You get your check every 2 weeks, the direct deposit hits, you're fine. How are you able to be courageous enough to do this? And how have you been able to maintain in terms of creating different revenue streams so that if maybe your coaching is down, you still have some other aspects that are bringing in revenue?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing, that's why I still do my HPN. That's why I have clients that I do meetings and events with. I stay relevant. I stay on top of that. I work with them closely, knowing that if I need to put more effort into that, then I can increase that stream as well. And as for the coaching, it's always evolving. It's changing. It's education. It's, what can I offer the next person? When I first started, it was purely triathlon, and then I started helping people in single sport, and then now I'm working with some people who are. I am not a life coach at all, but it is uncovering what is holding them back from And generally it's somewhat athletic, but it doesn't have to be a triathlon. So I think that to answer you, it's how do I keep growing and offering something different to the next person?
I think I have a question too about those blocks because you now have coached so many different people to do so many different things. Are there any trends or commonalities of like blocks that you see that hold people back? What are those and how have you helped people overcome them?
I think um, one, the block is knowing it's okay to hurt, knowing that that is, you don't have to feel good athletically to perform well. And so it's a fine line of ouch, that hurts. And obviously we don't want to get ourselves injured, but understanding what it means to struggle through something that's painful to get to the other side of that.
Mm,
Um, so that is getting comfortable with being uncomfortable and knowing that how long can you sit in that zone? That's the big step. And then the next step is identifying what are you putting up in front of you? Like, I don't think this is going to go really well today because I didn't sleep well last night. You're setting yourself up to fail right
Mm.
there. And so it's asking people when someone struggles with it, when athletes are struggling with something, this didn't work out go well, so tell me why. And as we go to the longer we work together, I start to see things like I woke up and I didn't feel very good. My sleep score was terrible, but I decided to try 20 minutes and 20 became 30, 40, 50. Um, so it's sometimes breaking things down. It's the idea of, I don't know if I can crack that whole thing. Let's just start and think less. Just think less and do more. We're our own biggest obstacle. We get in
yeah.
our own way. And so, and sometimes it's patterns. Every time I get home from work and then I eat this and then I do that and I start my workout. Okay, so how do we do that differently? How do we shift when we eat? How do we shift when we walk the dog? How do we shift those things so it's not you're not setting yourself up for every time I do this, this happens. Then it's like, then let's not do that every time.
Mm.
Interesting.
Yeah. Can we shift gears really quick to just to go back to the founding of Nick's Endurance because you're a
Mhm.
co-founder. So can you talk about how you found your other founders and what different strengths and synergies, I hate the word synergy, but you know what I mean? Like what different strengths you bring to the table and how you operate together?
So we started talking about this in March of 2020, which we all remember very well.
Mhm.
Um, my business partner and I were coaching triathlon through another organization. And as the world was crumbling around us, or so it felt, I was watching how the CEO of HPN Global, Bill Kilberg, would come on weekly and tell us how amazing we were as people, how hard this was, how much he understood, and was there anything he could do to help us for the next however long this was going to be. And it was a level of support that I didn't realize was so incredibly important because every day was a nightmare from a business standpoint. And he was providing this guidance and this feedback I just remember calling him like, just what am I going to do? And he just listened. So parallel that to the other organization that we were coaching through, and this is a revenue stream, my business partner, this is her main job. And suddenly there was no more triathlon. So in another way, this business was crumbling.
Mm.
And the leader at that point did not offer any support, did not, what can I do for you? How are you feeling? How is this going? And so we leaned on each other and we started calling. We were on a Zoom call and we started side chatting, like what, how can we help each other? And we started conversations and it went. And we are so different, but which is great, which is what makes really good business partners. And we started talking and it's sort of just like anything, like what if we started our own company? What would that look like? Um, And so within the next 30, 60 days, suddenly we had a lot of time on our hands. And we decided, okay, let's try a triathlon coaching company in the middle of a pandemic when there are no races. Um, and we did it. And 90% of the athletes that we were working with came with us because we built a community when there was no community happening. And I learned from Bill, like to listen and offer feedback and be there for those athletes. And then we got creative. We created challenges. And so we were thriving in a time when so much was not thriving. And that's how we launched it.
Awesome.
How do you keep your own personal stuff? How do you stay balanced? Because you have a couple, two or three really serious, time intensive jobs, careers. What do
Mhm.
you do personally to stay balanced and to not get burned out?
Gosh, so I have my own coach. So I let somebody handle the athletic part of my life. So for me to stay balanced, it's an excessive amount of exercise. It is a part-time job, but I thrive on that environment. And it is, I think anybody can say, if you want to get something done, you find the busiest person that you know and you ask them.
Mm.
And I thrive. I can do so much when I'm, this morning, I'm writing training plans, I'm negotiating contracts, I'm talking to a hotel, I'm taking my mom to the doctor, and then I have, this, and five other things. So I think I do much better in that environment. I get a lot more done, and then, but it's planning. It's like all of us. I have great plans every day. They usually fall apart and cross over, but I do set a time at the beginning and at the end of the day to set what I'm going to do, and at the end of the day to laugh at what I thought I was going to do, but to bottle that up and put it to the next day. So I'm always trying to figure out a way to harness it, but sometimes I found I can't do that. I can't do social media between 8 and 9 a.m. some days. Sometimes it's 4 a.m.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's
Yeah.
whatever. So it's making sure all the balls are at least in the arena, and trying to manage them that way.
Since you kind of started the business like officially and went with your business partner in like March 2020, what have been maybe the top three most valuable lessons you've learned?
So first of all, we founded the business with three of us, and now there's
Mhm.
only two. So the number one lesson, if you are creating a business, is when you form that corporation, pay the money to have an attorney help you with your documents, your LLC, whatever you're going to do. Because he said to us at the time, he said, "This is not a partnership agreement." It was. This is a partnership disagreement. You're not going to pull this out until something goes sideways. And
Mm.
and he was 100% right. And it was a lot of money. Attorneys are really expensive, but it was the best money we spent, because when we had that come up, all we had to do was pull out that document and it was so clear. X, Y, Z. So I would say that right there is the number one thing. Other thing is hire someone to help you with communication. Your business outsource things I don't know how to do. And a lot of that is coaching. So what is it that you're going to do? What is it that you're going to do? And how do we stay in our own lanes? And what happens when we get in each other's lanes? How does that work? And I've learned a lot through it. We've been in and out each other lanes and it hasn't worked. And now sometimes, and the third thing is be willing to change. Just because you start one way doesn't mean you're going to end up that way. And it could be that 30, 60, 90, 1 year, 2 years later, you realize, actually, I'm not very good at this and I don't know why I'm doing this.
Mhm.
Or whatever that is. So I would say, pay professionals to help you with that kind of stuff. Be open to change, and be willing to say you mess up.
Excellent.
That's powerful. The ability just to own it and be vulnerable and say, "Hey, I made a mistake, but I'm going to learn from it," kind of thing. Julie, one of the many things I admire about you is your constant craving for education and your constant ability to make time for education and staying relevant. So, what are some of those things that you put into practice? Like, what are there conferences that you always attend? Are there things that you always read? Like, what do you do to make sure you're always educated and relevant? Because that is something about you I've noticed over the years is like you'll drop everything to get yourself educated on something, and then you literally know like every single thing about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's I have this weird I'm always terrified of being the least educated or uninformed person in a room. And if I feel like if I get called on for something, I need to be able to answer it somehow or the other. So I think that's kind of where that comes from. And it evolved. I mean, what did I used to do? I used to books. And I barely have time to read anymore. I read 30 minutes a night before I'm allowed to watch anything on a screen because that's just my personal rule.
Mm.
But I think the biggest amount of education I get is from podcasts. I listen to so many different podcasts, and then I subscribe to whatever newsletters those might be. And I do some in-person things. I went to WeCon. I find that it's really good for me to get away, but I have a hard time staying in sessions like that day after day. So they're shorter on my own things. I've taken some asynchronous classes, and which are good, or I tend to zip through the stuff I don't think is important, which makes no sense because I'm not the teacher. But I like that because I can find out where it is. I learn stuff on YouTube, especially because it tells you what happens at each minute. So I'm sort of, not to put down anyone who has ADD because that's unfair. I don't have, but my brain sticks around a lot. And so if I can see at minute 4:30 is when they're going to dive into the topic I'm looking for, I'll hop there.
Mm-hmm.
And I take long walks with my dogs, and that's when I listen and learn to a lot.
What would be maybe we're not picking favorites, but like 3 of your current favorite podcasts that you love to listen to and you get the most out of?
So it's funny because they change a
Yeah,
lot because topics
yeah.
change. So my favorite one right now is a podcast called Chat GPT. It's 8 to 10 minutes a day, and it's everything AI Chat GPT. And this kid is probably younger than my son, but it blows my mind the stuff where AI is going. And so that is really fun. And I leave the stuff from there with that. And sort of because I'm in this phase a little bit, there's a podcast called Hard Fork. And it's sort of also in the AI tech testing right there. And then my other favorite podcast is called Pivot. It's with Tara Swisher and Scott Galloway, 2 of the smartest people
I
on the
love them.
planet.
Yeah.
And I want to sit and have dinner. I just want to be in the car with them somewhere. And then I listened to an amazing podcast. It's the 4th one, called How They Train, and it's all the geeked out world of triathlon and coaching at the best. And everyone I'd like to listen to, the Chat GPT guy's not edgy. I like the edgy people that push the boundaries and make their guests a little uncomfortable. I'm okay with that.
I love Scott Galloway. I could sit, I want to have dinner with him. I want to be friends with him. Yeah, he's great. And that's awesome. And Kara Swisher, doesn't she do that? She does a Succession follow-up podcast too, doesn't she? I think
Yes.
Yeah, I have not listened to that. But I do.
Yeah.
Scott Galloway is someone who should offend me and who doesn't.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's like I want to love him so much, but I disagree with a lot of what he says, but I love
Some of
him.
the things he says, I just like drop the mic. Like, did you literally just say that? But anyway, yeah.
Well, you talked about ChatGPT, and I feel like because you were a panelist at WeCon this past week about all of the uses of ChatGPT for your business and for life. So, do you mind just sharing? And for those that are listening or watching that don't know what it is, could you just give a quick like Reader's Digest version of what it is, how to get to it, and how you use it in your life?
Yeah, for sure. So I would say, so Chat GPT, the easiest way to get to it is, it's like, oh gosh, I even have to think about it. I don't even know it's saved every single place I am. So, but it's chat. Yeah, it's OpenAI hang on. You would think
Yeah.
I would even have
I
that.
have it pulled up on the screen, so keep going.
Okay, it's chat.openai.com. And you go in there and you sign up for an account. And then once you have it, the Chat GPT it, how do I even describe it? I'm like so overwhelmed by, trying to like, handle this, but you can use it for anything. And so I use it for writing. I use it for helping me come up with ideas. I use it for
The chat GPT. Monsters, hold on. Let's see here. Uh-oh. We got Julie.
That's
She'll come back
okay.
in a moment.
Well,
I
I
have
think
it on my
something
screen.
that's okay. We lost it. But
it's
oh, okay.
I'm struggling here, Mandy, because I don't know.
It's
Well,
okay.
something that an example you gave, I think
Yeah,
at the conference that was great was you were like, I am really bad at declining an invitation to something that I feel
yes,
really passionate about. And I came home and told my husband about that because when he sits down to write an email, it's like an hour-long adventure. And I was like,
yes.
Julie uses ChatGPT to respond to emails sometimes. So it can be something as simple as like saying, hey, thanks for the invite, but I can't attend or I wouldn't like to attend for various reasons. Like it's interesting.
Yes. So I use it for writing. I use it for understanding. Um, use it for understanding articles. I use it for understanding things that are complicated to me. You can ask it to explain nuclear physics to you, but you can ask it to explain the impact of XYZ on the environment and how that makes a difference. But I recommend just going in and creating an account. Um, it retrieves any information 24/7 on any topic you can possibly imagine. You can help it write empathetic responses. I used it to negotiate with someone who I felt was price gouging me on a car repair. Um, Instead of just writing back, are you serious? I'm not going to pay this. So what you do is you type in what you think you would normally write, even if it's outrageous. And I would say, make this friendlier, make this, and it will rewrite what you're trying to say. So it will say, dear so-and-so, after 6 years of owning this car and all my patronage and all of this, it puts it into a way that makes you sound human and empathetic and also not like a complete jerk. And they came back and took it around to my side. You can use it to analyze contracts. You can't use it to write a contract. I guess you can. You can use it to write Excel formulas. You could say, I need this, this, and this to happen. And then it will write the formula and you can import that into Google Sheets.
Mm.
I can use it to describe things. I can use it to help me. I used it to verbally make an apology to my husband because I pulled out a bunch of things that I thought were weeds, but they were his flowers.
Oh
I just
no.
put it in there. Sorry, I pulled out your weeds that are flowers and I feel badly. And it came back with, the beauty of your plants I did not see. I feel badly, and lays it all out there.
I love
So I use
that.
it primarily from like writing. So yeah. And also I use it in doctor's offices. If you don't
Yeah.
understand something, you get any medical results, anything, you can use it from that standpoint. You can use it to cook. You
Mm,
can put 5 ingredients in and tell you to make 10 recipes and create a shopping list.
awesome.
Most people are quite fearful of AI, and they're like, oh, they just think that it's going to ruin the way people write. Students in educational kind of conversations are like, oh, our students are not going to write. Teachers like so much cheating, but you seem to have a perspective that you're using it for different ways that it can assist us and make our lives easier. How do you have that growth mindset? I'll give you credit right there, like a growth mindset towards AI when so many people are concerned and scared about it.
I'm not in a space where, I mean, if I was in school, God, I mean, first of all, I'm fearfully afraid of like, I'm not a cheater. And it would feel like plagiarism. But I struggle. I have so many ideas and like, my writing is not great. So the first time I heard I don't know, heard or read or something that, the reason it is so great is it can regenerate a response. Or I think someone used the word like wordsmith, and
Mm.
that's what I like. I need my things wordsmith, um, because I just need them, reinforced or made a little bit better. And so once I started seeing that, then I realized this is a really, really great thing. And I dove into it just help somebody who was looking for a job. Like I listened to a podcast of if you're not using this when you're looking for a job, like you take the job description and you put it into chat GP and you plug your resume in there and it will rewrite your resume, pulling every bit of that job description into the resume. And resumes are now usually screened before no one is reading the resume. So when it goes through the screener, all the touch points that it's looking for is in that resume. And
Mm.
then when you go to write the cover letter, you look up so and so, whoever that is, and it will customize a cover letter based on who that person is because all that knowledge is on the internet. So I've used that
Ah,
to reach out to some people from like a sponsorship standpoint. Um, I understand that blah, 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 information that I never would have found on Google. Like I found about their dogs and where they live and causes that they've given to because they go to things. And so they think I'm a world amazing researcher. And I did it in probably 22 seconds. Um, so that's another way to do it. I don't know. I'm not afraid of it because you just have to play with it. You have to get in there and you have to learn how to talk to it. And you could spend hours talking to it. I don't have a
Yeah.
relationship with it, but um,
Yet. Yeah, you never know. You never know.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I've not sat there at night and you can use it to write a song. You can use it to write a poem. Mandy wrote a very lovely poem yesterday. A lot of people do that in Chat GPT.
I just did it when I woke up laying in bed. But yes, but
I
people
know.
could have done it but it's funny that you say wordsmith because people will send me things all the time. They're like, "Mandy, can you zhuzh this? Can you wordsmith this?" And it's my friends. I'm not
Yes.
going to charge them for that. But now I can be like, "Hey, I don't have time. Go to ChatGPT." And I can outsource my
Yes.
my volunteer wordsmithing now, I think, because I've never thought about it that way. That's interesting.
That is 100%. That's 100% way to do it. You can
Mm.
absolutely do it. You can condense things. You can make things longer. You can also have it look for things like you can cut and paste, look for liabilities in a contract.
Mm. So I want to switch gears for a minute to being a working parent because you've got two grown adult children. You've made it through the major storms of parenting. By the way, happy belated Mother's Day. I know I said
Happy
it
belated
yesterday. I'm
Mother's
going to
Day.
say it today to your mom and to you. But can do you have any advice of how you weathered the storm of being a working parent, a very demanding job, and two kids of like how you made it through and then the whole parenting of adult children. I know you're embarking on that right now. So any advice on either side of the working parent journey?
Biggest thing with the working parent is parenting brings so much guilt from the outside. Everybody loves to judge a parent, whether you're a parent of especially a kid, but even dogs. And so I think you have to like you be you and you figure out what works for you. And just like in the world of business, that can change. That can change. If you're committed on being a stay-at-home mom and you decide that you don't want to, that's okay. Um, you've got to do what works for you and your kids. Um, and I think that, and for me, that was one of the biggest reasons I left Starwood to go to HCN is that I I did not want to be a stay-at-home mom, just that, but I wanted to be an at-home working mom. Um, and so I curated a job. I took a big step down. I left the director's role to go back to a salesperson so I could work at home and make that life work a little bit with my kids. Um, I also left corporate America and went out on my own because then I wanted to take that next step. So I think that if you don't take care of you, you can't take care of your kids. You just can't.
Mm.
And there's no room in your life for people that are going to judge you for what you're doing. And if they're not giving you positive input on how you're parenting and leading your life, then move on, find people that are. So I think that was it. Like I founded a working moms play group because every play group was for stay-at-home moms.
Mhm.
So, we met at different times. So we all talked about, our baby's poo, but we also talked about balancing how do you work and do those sorts of things? So it's surround yourself with like-minded people. And then I think the biggest thing too is like, don't sweat the small stuff. Really, it's just don't. And when things happen, just move on and look forward. And it's up and down. It's a roller coaster. And when things are really bad, at some point when you're a parent, just you're going to come out the other side. You really are. And parenting adult children, man, that you go to the library and there's no books on that. There's 9 billion on how to change a diaper, but not, when you're young, when your kids are young, you're like, oh, just get them to 18. Okay, first of all, that's not true. Parenting does not stop at 18, 20. I'm at 28. And it's a new relationship. It's know your audience. So much of like what we do in parenting is like what we do when we speak in public. Know your audience. And I think with adult children, the number one thing is no unsolicited feedback. That's everything in life, honestly. I don't like unsolicited feedback. And so just apply that to your children. And I think as children become adults, like remember, like parents, the transition is a little dicey. You go from paying for everything and now this kid is independent and it's a little gray area and you find your way. But I think it's like with most things in life. Be kind, bite your tongue, wait 10 seconds before you say something. If you're not sure if you should say it, don't say it. And if you say the wrong thing, apologize. Be an adult and apologize. So yeah, I mean, it's
Good advice. Good
It
advice.
is. It is. You mentioned a few life hacks. I'm curious if you can share a few more. One of them that caught my ears and my eyes is that you read for 30 minutes a day before even watching any screens. I like that one. What other life hacks do you have that you practice that you'd like to share with us?
um I don't open or look at my phone for 15 minutes after I get up.
Mm.
That's not very long, but I get up, I go in and I turn on our coffee machine and I do like a little like sun salutation yoga sort of thing. I wake up my mind, I wake up my body. I greet my dog, the one that's up anyway. And I try to say like, it's like 15 minutes before I jump in to the screen. But those are probably my two pretty hard and fast. Everything
Mhm.
else is pretty loose, Amani. I don't know.
Those are
Try a
2
lot of
really
things.
good ones. Those are really good,
They're sort of the beginning and the end of the day.
Yeah.
So that is the beginning and the end. So that's a big one. So
Interesting.
I
Now,
also turn my phone upside down when I drive my car.
oh, that's a good
Mhm.
one there too, just so you don't even get tempted to even look at it.
No, no. I mean, I can listen to things now, but I don't. I put it down and I don't. I thought I was getting into the habit of getting to traffic lights and like having to look. And so it's it's just creating a new habit of when I get to a traffic light, I would do something else.
I
Try to be
like
present.
And you have an auto silence too, because there's sometimes I'll text Julie and she'll say,
Mhm.
I'm currently driving right now. I'll get back to you later. It's an automatic message that comes on, or I don't know if that's the exact thing that says, but
Yes.
I'm like, oh, I really appreciate that because you're focused on driving. And I
And the
know
text
that,
won't come through until I stop my car.
yeah.
Um, Yeah. I would say the other thing too is I'm big. I have a setting on my phone where nothing comes through. Absolutely zip nothing. And I turn that on. I turn that on like when I walk my dogs. I turn that on when I need a mental break.
Mm.
I did try walking my dogs without any technology, and I failed.
Okay,
Tried to
fair
be
enough.
in nature by myself with my
Yeah.
dogs, and
Yeah,
I decided that no, I'm not going to do it. I tried for a week, 7 days.
You
okay.
tried.
The
You gotta
dog's
try.
walk got shorter and shorter.
Interesting.
By the time I went to the end of the street and came back, I was like, okay, now the dogs are moving out. So
Yeah, yeah. We're coming to the point in the show where we kind of flip the script
yep,
and we let you ask myself a question or Manny a question in whatever order.
yep.
So we'll
Okay.
turn the show over to you for a question from Mandy and myself, and then we'll come back with our final set of questions. So who will you ask a question to first?
To you, Amani.
Okay.
What is it about Mandy that drew you to wanting to start a podcast with her?
Mm.
Oh, good one.
Number one, her
Tell me,
energy.
Amani. Oh.
Her energy. She's got great energy. Just her passion for learning different things was fun. Her experience in the industry, because we kind of grew up in hotels and then left, which is very similar to what I did, so we can relate to that lifestyle. Um, and then Mandy's like a risk taker. She wants to go for it and go get it. She's a fellow author, so we've done like a lot of very hard things together. Not together like we've done, like, we've both written a book, we've both kind of left the corporate life to do something more challenging, more courageous. And then her energy, so those were kind of the 4 or 5 things when I first really got to know her last March at WeCon. I was like, ooh, this would be fun. So that's how I would answer that.
Okay,
You
Mandy,
still
what's
feel that
one
way,
thing?
Amani, a year later? You're a year,
Yes, yes, even
you're
more
Yes.
in.
so. Even more so. You're in, I'm in.
Hmm.
Okay, Mandy, what is one thing on your secret list of something you want to do in the near future?
Oh shit. Oh, sorry, Amani. I
It's
swore.
okay. It's okay.
Um, let's see, a secret list. I actually have 2 things on my secret list. I don't know if I'll ever do, but I have always wanted to be a pedicab driver for a day. Like, I have always,
What the-
always wanted just to ride a bike around with people in the and just do it for free. Ride a bike around, people in the back,
oh,
playing music, just getting people from A to B, chatting them
mhm.
up, showing them San Diego. I'd pick a flat
Wow.
route, maybe down by the harbor. I actually, when I moved from Vegas back to San Diego, I actually went and got my pedicab picture taken. I got a pedicab license because I really wanted to
No.
do it. And then the day I went to go do it was that, and I don't know if you remember this, it was, 13 years ago, was that really bad pedicab accident that happened.
Yeah, I
And
remember that.
yeah, and I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do that. And my husband, Scooter, my boyfriend at the time, was like, aren't you gonna try and ride a pedicab today? Like, maybe that's a sign from the universe. And then I never followed through. So I would really like to do that. And I'd also want to teach a spin class for a day. Those are two things that I would love to do. Maybe not permanently, maybe for a week or a day or something like that. Those are on my secret list for sure.
Mm.
What
I
about
like
you,
that.
Julie? What's on your secret list of stuff, something you want to do?
Oh God, I should have been ready for that. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. Um, I'm bad at keeping lists. I'm too impulsive. I just do things and then inform my husband that no, I mean one of it's not a secret list, but at some point I do. I want to go live in another country for a year.
Mm.
That'd be
Which
cool.
Rent
countries
out the house,
are
put it what?
which countries are kind of at the top of your list?
So okay, the easy one would be New Zealand. Um,
Mm.
but I feel like I would really challenge. I want to live some. I would challenge myself to do someplace where I don't speak the language. I can speak Kiwi. Okay. Um, so I don't know. Maybe Italy or Spain. And just pack it in and go.
Wow.
Terrifying. But yeah, I think that would be fun.
I love that. Do it. Do it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I got my parents close by, so we'll see. At some point, we might do it.
Okay. Now we have my favorite question. I love to ask this
Your
question.
2 favorite, your 2 favorite. Yeah.
Oh, yes, yes. Let's ask the first one. Books first. Thank you
Yeah.
for reminding me, Mandy.
hmm
Uh, if there's a book maybe you've read or listened to, 2 or 3 books that you feel people really need to stop what they're doing right now and start to read them immediately, what books come to mind?
Oh my gosh, it was one that just they were literally just on Kara and Spot, Kara and Scott Galloway on Pivot. It's SPFU, set the F up. And I forgot the guy's name, the writer, but basically he talks about it, like his marriage. He was separated from his wife, and it's the power of listening. And I feel like we have heard this in many, many different ways. But this was just another good one. This was another good one. One of my other favorite books is called The Champion's Mind. And it's
Mm.
just, it's a thinking, it's a thinking book. But it is definitely sports minded, but it's also, it applies to life. There's another book I haven't finished yet, but I am in the middle of it, called The Art of Resilience. And it is a guy who swims around Great Britain. Like,
Mm.
wrap your head around it. It's like, it's years. And it's not just about swimming, because it is, I mean, the guy's tongue is dissolving because of the salt water.
Oh,
It
wow.
is a feat that is beyond comprehension. So it's a good book that, like, when you think you're having a bad day, just like tune into that. And that is a privileged bad day. I get that. But those are kind of those are my ones right there. The best marketing book is The Purple Cow by Seth Godin.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love Seth
That's
Godin.
like a good, like, in there, good business kind of book. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Good choices. Now, to follow up, if we're gonna go back, and I guess you went to what, Louisiana State for kind of undergraduate school? So we're gonna go to
Uh-huh.
LSU, talk to 21-year-old
Yeah.
old Julie, and ask her for advice based on everything you know now. What advice would you give your younger self?
Um, Gosh, appreciate all the knowledge you have at your fingertips when you are in college. Um, I feel like I was in such a rush to get out of college that I didn't appreciate. And I don't know if any younger self really, really does. Um, but, and I don't know if anyone would really ever listen to that. But I would also say, be intentional about making connections with the influential people in your college career.
Mm,
Um, and those could be friends, but I almost more think that they are maybe mentors. Maybe it's that professor, maybe that's that TA, maybe it's those people that you can lean on in a couple of years down the road when you get out of college and you're trying to figure out what the heck is really going on. If you learn how to establish relationship with mentors at a young age, you'll do it throughout your career. And I feel like that might be a lost art. I don't know if people still do that in the same way that we did back in the day.
Julie, you bring up a good point about that. Like the power a younger person has in asking somebody to be their mentor, but the other power that they have by giving back to their mentor. Like there's so many things that a college student or just after college that they can give to us. Asking us to be a mentor is one thing, right? But like what they can teach us so much too, and just being open to that. So I think that's interesting. Looking for mentors, asking for mentors, but then giving back to your mentor, even at a young age, is important.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm 56, so like I need to learn like I need to learn from the people that are in their 20s and 30s, and
Mhm.
it's fun to ask, like, what do you think of this? Like, how am I approaching this? And sometimes when I hear like, wow, you're really off base, it's like, okay, so help me understand what is a better way to, to present this or talk about this, or does this
Mhm.
resonate with you? I talk to my kids who are 26 and 28. Does this resonate with you at all? Like as an adult, not as that's my mom.
Mm.
Um, and the feedback is helpful.
Okay, kudos to you for being open to
Yes.
hearing their responses too, because a lot of people would just shut down and shut out and just say, "Oh, I'm too old for this," or whatever. And you're open to the inputs. I think that's really powerful.
Yeah.
Said the nod to like your younger self, like be open to, and I don't care, call it, it's people get criticized now and they freak out, but I mean it is like, be open to, when you get that unsolicited feedback, just before you shut it down, maybe take a nod at it and see if maybe there might be something to it. I had a lady in a restaurant last night tell me I was shrieking, and I almost punched her in the face. I'm not a shrieker, but I realized I was talking loudly. I mean, I did, like, but my first reaction was like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Turns out it was me. Um, I don't know. I was animated with my mom. I'm not exactly sure why, but
Yeah. Now,
Awesome.
out of all the risks you've taken in life, and you've taken a bunch actually, so props to you. What is the one risk that you're most proud of?
uh, leaving my first husband.
Oh, wow. Okay, care to share, like, I mean, what wisdom or advice came from that situation? That's a good one.
It was there was a lot of things that weren't working, and I was excelling in my career. He was doing a lot of the caretaking with the kids. I was launched in sort of a way that I saw myself going with Starwood, like on this corporate track. And I realized that this was not the caretaker I wanted at home with my kids. And so it was big. I had to step away from what I thought was my dream career, um, take a gigantic risk, take a significant financial hit that took me a long time to pay off because of the debt that I had been accumulated that I didn't know about and all the other things. And so, I mean, it was terrifying. It was really scary, and it was the best thing I did. It gave me the courage to to learn how to survive, and to learn that money, nothing is worth money, absolutely nothing.
Mm,
So
Mm.
so yeah.
Yeah, that's I can relate. So amen to that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let Mandy close out the show with her final questions, but that was a surprising but really good one there. So caught
I
us all
know.
off guard. I love
I was
it.
like,
I love it.
do I say it? I'm going
say
to.
Yes,
it.
yes, you
I,
say it. Amazing.
I'm glad you did, because somebody might be out there listening right
Mm.
now, whether they're 25, 35, 45, 55, 65, and they may be petrified to leave a partner because it's safe, or for whatever reason, financially safe, emotionally safe. You don't know what that investment is. And you just gave evidence that, like, you can do it, and it is scary, but there is greener pastures on the other side. So I'm really glad that you did that. You never know who that one little sentence might
Yeah.
help. So thank you for sharing that. I think that was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to know, how can we support you? You've
Yes.
supported me for the last 24 years. You've always been a sounding board, a great big sister. You've given me so much great advice. You've participated in so many weird shenanigans I've asked you to participate in. Like, how can we support you? How can we support Nick's endurance? Do we have to be an athlete to be a client? Like, how can we support you, and how can we know more about Nick's?
I mean, we have a website, nixendurance.com. Instagram is nixendurance. Like I said, it is, if you are a triathlete and athlete and want to do more, that's an easy thing. But if you want more, if you want a different sort of coaching in your life, that is understanding what drives you, and being willing to use some athletic mode to get to the other side, reach out to me. I mean, it's just, that is, I'm growing in so many different ways in that. And so I am surviving with everyone who is a triathlete, but I'm also having a lot of fun with people who are dipping their toe into different things, but are willing to do the really hard stuff. Not physically, but mentally too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then how can we support you, just personally and professionally?
Keep asking me.
Okay.
I love
Me
it.
to
That's a great
do
answer.
anything.
Okay.
Ask
Great
me to
answer.
do anything. My mother told me when I was very, very young and moved to a new city and I did anything, you'd never say no. You just don't say no. So
Mm.
I've been to Supercross, I've been to motocross, I've been to events, I've been to all you can eat barbecues as a vegan. I've been to so many events because someone just asked. So just keep asking. And if you say, I don't know if you want to do this, if I would want to go, I won't go.
All right.
But most of the time I will go unless it crosses an ethical boundary.
All right. You heard it here first. Ask Julie
Yes.
to do
Yeah.
anything, everybody. Ask her.
Yes, indeed.
Great.
Well, we just want to thank you for appearing on the show, taking time to speak to us, sharing some great wisdom. Excellent thoughts here. Can't wait to go back and rewatch the episode. It was a pleasure to meet you over at WeCon. So looking forward to getting to know you
Yeah,
even more. So it was fun. I got more AI questions, but I'm going to practice what you preached first. Then I'll come back to you with some questions. But
come back with them. I feel like I failed that AI question. I was so like, oh my gosh. Anyway, I'm happy to talk with anyone about it in any way. So
yeah, awesome. Well, we'll give you a round of applause and just thank you again for being on our show.
Thank you,
thank
Julie.
you.
You're the best. Thank you.
All right, we're gonna go back to the green room. Mandy, we are finished. This was our 20, I think this was our 23rd episode. So we're cruising
23, Michael
along.
Jordan.
23.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Michael
Hmm.
Jordan, the original OG.
OG.
Who do we have to look forward to next week?
Well, we have the shiny, happy, joyful Aaron King, who we booked so long ago. And I didn't quite realize that it would be so soon after we just spent time with her at WeCon. But Erin King is one of the top speakers on the speaking circuit. She is a two-time entrepreneur. She's bought and sold businesses. She's failed miserably at businesses. She has succeeded triumphantly at businesses, and she is a firecracker. So tune in. You're definitely going to get a laugh. You'll probably get some conversation about how to be a better communicator behind the screen, and definitely how to step into your big deal energy. So tune in,
Yes.
because
Right.
she'll be with us next week, Monday at 1 o'clock.
Yes, 1 o'clock Pacific, 4 on the East.
Yeah.
Thanks again. We will see everyone next week. Thank you for tuning in, watching the live stream, the recording. If you're tuning into the podcast, thank you for listening on the podcast. Be sure to rate and review our show on your podcast platform of choice. And with that, we'll say stay safe, and we'll see you next week.
See you
Bye,
next week.
everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.